And still have a ton of seeds left. That's the best $5 you can spend right there. If you were to grow all those. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having a fantastic day. It is Thursday, April 25th here in South Georgia, and we may have missed our window on. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having a fantastic day. It is Thursday, April 25th here in South Georgia, and we may have missed our window on getting these planted, but we're going to plant them anyway, and I'm going to tell you why these are the only beans I grow nowadays. So these two plots on the back half of our property have kind of been neglected over the last few months. These were the first two garden plots we ever had when we moved here, but we haven't done a whole lot with them lately. We've been focusing most of our effort on those 6 plots up front. But we still have this arch panel trellis here, which we need to be growing something on. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. This space right here is kind of grown up. Not really planning to do anything with this immediately. I think this is going to be the spot where I put my new greenhouse, hopefully this summer. Then right here on the end, we've got our turmeric bed, which I need to clean up a little bit, pull a few weeds. Hasn't gotten warm enough for the turmeric to start sprouting yet, but it won't be long. And then behind all that, this plot needs some cleanup as well. This is our sandiest plot on the property, typically our poorest performing soil on the property, but I think it's gonna make a good spot for some sweet potatoes this summer, so I am gonna get it cleaned up and ready to plant sweet potatoes soon. But anyways, back over here at our arch trellis, this is something that I believe every garden should have, no matter how big or small the garden is. And this type of trellis is really easy to build. All you need is some T-posts, some cattle panels, and we have everything clipped together with zip ties. But you could use metal fence clips if you wanted. And so this one is 6 panels long, but even if you just use one panel, it will still be worth doing. You can grow a ton of groceries this way because you're growing them vertically. They're not taking up near as much space. But just make sure when you're putting it all together, you raise the panels off the ground a little bit. We've got ours about 6 or 8 inches off the ground there. Makes it a lot easier to weed around the post and where the panels are. Also keeps those panels from rusting, sitting on wet soil. So today we're going to be planting some of these King of the Garden pole lima beans on our arch panel trellis. And I mentioned earlier in the video that we may have missed our window on these. I should have planted these a couple weeks ago, but I'm just now getting around to it. And the reason I say that is because when it gets really hot out here, beans will start dropping blooms. And so, you know, if you plant them too late, you might not get a lot of production before it gets too hot and they start dropping blooms. Sometimes the plants will make it all the way through summer and then kick back up again when fall rolls around and the temperatures cool a little bit. Sometimes the summer heat kind of zaps them. I've had both happen, but these seeds right here are dirt cheap. I think I paid $6 for a pound of these, so it's still worth giving it a try. If it doesn't work, we'll try again in fall. And these are the only beans I grow nowadays because they're so much easier to pick. Yeah, I like eating bush butter beans, but I hate picking the dang things. So with these King of Garden pole limas, when they're full grown, the foliage will cover this entire arch here. Yes, there are a few beans we'll have to pick from the outside, but the majority of them we can stand underneath here, which will be in the shade, since it's covered with foliage, pick our beans, and we don't have to bend down a whole lot. Now, as you can probably tell by the color of this soil here, this is not the most fertile soil. I haven't really put a lot of effort into maintaining some long-term healthy soil in this plot, but that's okay because we don't need super fertile soil for these beans. Now we do still have a drip system rigged up here. I pulled back the lines earlier today so I could weed in and around that arch panel trellis a little bit, but everything's hooked up. We just got to put it back in place. So I'm just going to take our little triangle hoe here and make me a small trench to lay my drip tape back in. Not going to make this super deep because we are going to end up putting some compost on top of this. Just something to kind of keep my drip tape straight. Alright, so we got that drip tape laid down in that little furrow that we made. I amended my system a little bit here, moved my water hookup to right there since we're not going to be using most of that for garden space anymore. Just make it easier to hook things up right here. And I told y'all how we're late on getting these beans planted, but we do have one growing here. So at Sunday school a couple weeks ago, they had some lesson, had something to do with beans. Titus had one bean. He come out here, planted it right on the outside of this trellis. I figured it was a bush bean, but couldn't hurt anything. It's starting to look a little bit like a pole bean though. So at least we've got one plant going. Now I wish I had some inoculant to put down in these furrows before we planted our beans, but I don't. I have heard some people say once you put down inoculant, the bacteria basically stay there forever, and we have had inoculant down here before. I don't know if that's true or not. If I had some, I would add some more. Since we don't have any, I'm gonna add a little pre-plant fertilizer down here. Gonna sprinkle a little bit of this coop grow along that furrow before we cover up this tape. And instead of covering that tape with more of this sorry sandy dirt here, I figured we'd try to build it up a little bit. So the Big Blue Home Improvement Store was having a sale yesterday. Grabbed a couple bags of this mushroom compost. So we're gonna put some of that down where we have our furrow there. All right, so we got that mushroom compost added. Ended up doing about 3 bags per side of this arch panel trellis. Got it tidied up a little bit, got it mounded up a little bit. Did end up getting some of that sandy dirt mixed in with it, but that'll be okay. So now we're ready to plant, and because we're growing these vertically, we can pack them in here pretty tight. So I'm just gonna use the other end of my hoe, make some holes for my seeds. I'm gonna put them about, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 6 inches apart. I'm gonna get too exact with it. I'm gonna go ahead and poke my holes all along this row. Now that our holes are punched, we're just gonna drop one of these big old bean seeds in each hole and then just kind of cover them up as we go. These should germinate pretty good, so just gonna do 1 seed per hole. All right, so we got both rows planted there and still have a ton of seeds left. That's the best $5 you can spend right there. If you were to grow all those, you would have so many beans. And if you wanted to get really ambitious with this, you can plant double rows. So basically a row on each side of each tape line, giving you 4 rows there instead of 2 rows. I've done that before. You end up with quite the jungle once those beans get going, but it can be done. You can basically double your production that way. And since we're talking about planting beans, let's talk about soaking seeds. We get a lot of questions about that. Soaking the seeds in water overnight before you plant them. A lot of the old timers do that. It does speed up the germination process a little bit. But since we have that drip tape down there, I'm just gonna let that run for a few hours and it will really soak that seed bed, keep it nice and moist for a few days. So I do my soaking in the dirt, but you can also soak them in a bowl or a mason jar the day before, especially if you're relying on Mother Nature to get these things up and going and you're not using drip irrigation. And if you like putting beans in the freezer or maybe just eating fresh lima beans, you need to give this King of Garden lima variety a try. It is a home run winner for us. Every single time we grow it, you get so many beans from a relatively small amount of space. Another really good climbing lima bean is called Christmas lima bean. Now that one is speckled, has a little more of a nuttier flavor than these green ones do. Both of them are really good. I would have to probably give the green one, the King of Garden lima, the slight edge, but you can't go wrong with either. So I hope you enjoyed the video today, and as always, you can find that Coop Grow fertilizer and a lot of the other products we use around here on our website at lazydogfarm.com. And if you want to know more about this arch panel trellis and see the step-by-step build of this structure, watch this video. We'll show you how we put it all together. So check that out, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.